Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada celebrating its 20th anniversary. This year it is in Yellowknife, February the 8th. And front and center will be Darcy Tucker, former NHLer who joins us now. Darcy, I know you've been to Whitehorse. Have you been to Yellowknife?
No, I haven't been to Yellowknife, so this is going to be the maiden voyage. And I'm looking forward to it. It's always a fun event to be at Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada and get to see some of the fellas, and we play in a game there, and it's always a lot of fun.
What's like the main highlight? I mean, you've done a number of these.
Yep.
What's always the main highlight for you?
I think for myself personally, it's the school visits. I think the kids get the opportunity to hang out with us. We do question answer, a little bit of a hot stove there, and talk about our careers. And usually it's myself, Lanny McDonald, Cassie Campbell, Pascal, and then Wendell's there, Wendell Clark. So we have a group of people that come out to these events, and the kids are so amped up and get the opportunity to hang out with us. And the Stanley Cup's there. I don't touch it, obviously, but Lanny brings it out and parades it around, and the kids have a great time. And I think just as much the teachers of the school have a great time. Sure. It's kind of a fun day for them as well.
What do the kids ask? I'm going to hand it over to Elliot here and say, what kind of stuff do the kids ask? That's a generation removed from you, right?
Yeah, all kinds of questions, actually. It's like, did you enjoy school? What was your favorite subject in school? Things that you wouldn't normally get asked.
What was your favorite subject?
Not math, I'll tell you that. My favorite subject at school was gym, for sure. I got to play all the sports. So, but no, they get the opportunity to have some questions for us, and we get to answer some of these things that we don't normally get asked. So it's a lot of fun.
So this year it's on the 7th. You're going up to Yellowknife, you said, on the 4th.
Yep.
So aside from the school visits, what do you do? Like, what's the schedule while you're up there?
It's packed. Like, our schedule is absolutely crammed in. We're on the ice doing clinics. Wendell comes out and does it, a bunch of clinics on the ice from the Leafs perspective. I know Paul Coffey's going to be up there this year, so he'll be doing a bunch of stuff there as well, and on ice stuff. And then we have, besides dinners and galas and things of that nature, that we're promoting Hockey Day, and we just have a lot of fun. I think our Scotiabank team is one of the best teams to be a part of, because we're doing so many things in the communities across Canada, and then it all kind of culminates on this one day, and we get to show the world what hockey's all about. So it's a lot of fun.
So like when you go to all these different communities,
yep,
who's the popular teams? Like the Leafs and Canadians still, or is it changed?
A little bit. The Leafs and Canadians are still very popular across Canada. The young kids now, it's a mix. You get a lot of different teams. The Crosby Effect, and him playing and winning Stanley Cups. You got the Blackhawks effect of winning the Stanley Cup, and Patrick Kane and what he's done. So there's a lot of different teams out there that kids are hoping for nowadays. I grew up an Oilers fan. I was born and raised in Alberta, so. But for me, it was Wayne Gretzky. So I think kids kind of, just as much as when I was a kid, they look forward to just watching players and maybe hoping for that team that they love their best player.
Is it less talk about Sidney Crosby, more talk about Connor McDavid now with the kids?
Yeah, I would have to say so.
It's almost weird how Crosby's almost become old.
Yeah, it is. It's not Sid the Kid anymore, that's for sure. But I mean, yeah, you look at what McDavid's done in his first few years in the league. Of course, there's going to be thousands of kids that go towards him. But I mean, for me, it's just different players and different teams that these kids are pulling for. So it's not necessarily just the Leafs and the Habs, which. You know what? We traveled well. I played on both teams. When we went across Canada to play out west, there was just as many fans in the stands that were pulling for us as there was for the Flames or the Oilers or the Canucks. So the Leafs and Habs do travel pretty well across Canada.
So you were saying before we started the interview that there's a draft for a hockey game you guys play, and who was the last pick last year?
Well, I think it was Ron, if I remember correctly. He's a lot of fun to be around when we do these events. He's got such a wealth of knowledge about not only the players that are there, like myself or Wendell or Lanny or Cassie. He gets to know the players that played on junior in that city, yes. or he just knows facts about people that it just amazes me that he can pull these things up and recall them. And he knows more about my career than I know about my career. Like, we'll be sitting there talking. He's like, remember that game when you played in Edmonton and your dad was on the ice? And I'm like, wow. How do you remember that, Ron? It's just amazing the things that he can recall from not only, the communities that we go to, but just the fact that he can recall those things from my career.
And he's a good skater, too. We all know he's a former referee.
You guys fixed it so he was the last pick.
Yeah, we got to fix it all the time. Yeah. We might fix it this year so he's first overall. You never know. I think I get the first overall pick.
Was he mad when he was the last pick?
I think he was pretty upset, of course. No, but he is a good skater.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he's a really good player.
He's a good skater, former referee. Like, he gets up and down the ice. Like, as far as being like a beer league hockey player, which he is now by his own admission, he's a good player.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he is a really good player. Yeah, I played with him not only at these events, but I played against him in a couple other events. Actually, when I was still playing, we did a charity game in Barrie, and Ron would be out most of the time playing in that game as well. And he's a really good skater. Whether he's playing forward or D, it doesn't matter. He knows the game really well too, which you could feed him and get him a couple goals every once in a while out there. He's a good finisher.
Does he still wear those graph T-blades, the loud ones? I think the ones that I'm talking about with like the circles, the replaceable blades. Like,
I think he's switched. I think.
Did he go back to like regular tucks?
Yeah, I think he's gone back to the regular tucks. I don't think he has those ones anymore. I can't remember though. He might actually. I don't know for sure.
All right. You're around young hockey players all the time. You're a coach in the GTHL, Toronto Titans 2005.
Yep.
Okay. I'm curious, whenever we talk to players that have gone through the NHL and now they're coaching kids, the obvious question is, what's different? I'm curious what's similar. Like, what's the same? Like, you look at the kids and you go, oh, yeah, I used to do that. Mm-hmm. Or you get into the ring and go, oh, yeah, I used to do that. We focus a lot on differences. Yep. What's the same with kids then and you when you grew up playing in their position?
Yeah, I think it's just access to everything is different. That's the big thing for me. But it's still... You're still going to the rink. You're still having fun with your buddies. You're still in the locker room. It's still the same camaraderie. It's a lot of things like that are still similar. You still got to put the puck in the net. It's still, the games last the same length of time that they always have lasted. But I think just the access to the skills coaches and things of that nature has changed the game. A lot more stick handling around pylons and things of that nature. When I played, it was just you threw the sticks one way or the other. And you just went at it. You know what I mean? It was just there was no real organization to it. It was just, and you had to make up things in your mind. Creative players in my generation. It was about you watched Wayne Gretzky, and you tried to emulate what he was doing on the ice in a scrimmage or in a shinny game. I think now it's just a little bit more structured with the things that they're able to do with these skills coaches.
Do kids play enough? Like, they do a lot of, and I'm guilty of this as well, because I have kids and they have skills coaches the same, so I'm guilty too. But do kids play enough hockey? Yeah. Instead of just getting skill training?
Yeah, I would say no. I'd say that's the most fun I ever had was me and my brother just putting it between each other's legs and trying to stick on around each other. That's just the purest part of it. Like, you get on an outdoor rink or you get on a sheet of ice and you're just out there having fun together. And I think sometimes that's a little bit lost. There's so much structure and teaching and things of that nature. Sometimes it gets lost, and I don't think kids watch necessarily a full game anymore either. I think they watch highlights. Yeah, I remember as a kid sitting with my dad until the intermission, and then I'd go get my stick and stick handle. But I'd watch the whole game because there wasn't a lot of replays, and there wasn't a lot of now you can go on YouTube or whatever, these things, and you can go right to your social media and see the highlights from the night, and maybe they just watch those little snippets, which is like, oh my God, that's a great play. Well, what about the small play that led up to that play? I don't think they get to see those small things in the game that maybe we grew up watching and made us a little bit more thoughtful of. Sometimes it's not necessarily just the finish of the goal. There's other things that happened before that allowed that play to happen.
Do you find that the kids that watch hockey, like the plays where, quote unquote, nothing happens, do you find that the kids that watch full games are better off than those kids that just watch the clips and just watch the highlights? Because they grew up thinking, well, that's hockey. I grab the puck and I dance three guys and I go water bottle.
Yeah, I think the kids that pay attention to those small details, and it's hard. I get it. Everybody wants instant access and gratification, and they want to be patted on the back because they did something really good, highlight real things. Sometimes you got to... We really, as coaches, try to break it down to small segments of plays that happened that led up to the goal, not just the goal, because there's 4 other guys on the ice with you, and they had to do something good for you to score that goal. They had to be in the right position, or they had to make a great pass, or maybe they blocked a shot down at the other end that led to your chance on net. So I think sometimes it's just too much of the instant gratification, as opposed to, maybe there's other things that happened before that you can show the kids that maybe led up to that play, making the goal.
There was one thing you said there that really concerned me, and that said that you left the TV during the intermissions. I hope that's still not the case.
Only on Saturday nights for that.
I absolutely watch you, Elliot. The intermissions are the most important part of my watching now. Trust me, I do.
This is very important for me to hear. I needed that self gratification.
I can fully understand that. Yes, I do watch the intermissions more now than I did when I was a kid.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was important.
I got to figure out what's going on around the league. I don't have the insights that you have. So I got to figure out what's going on around the league now.
We know you got a lot more insight than I do. But, I remember there was one time I did a Leaf trip, and the game was in Calgary, and I didn't realize it, but I sat down in the stands for Toronto Morning Skate, and your family was there.
Yeah.
And, Darcy, you were a young guy. You grew up in Castor, Alberta. The odds were against somebody from there making the NHL. Just when you were a kid, what did you think you were going to do with your life?
Gosh, that's a great question, Elliot. As a kid, I thought NHL hockey was a movie, to be honest with you. I didn't think it was real until I got the opportunity to go to my first NHL game. And I tell Lanny this all the time. I met Lanny and was able to actually touch him. So for me, it's like it went from, he's just a movie star to he's an actual person that plays hockey. So it kind of gave me that. I think I was 9 or 10 years old at the time, and it kind of gave me that thought that I can do this. Like he's from close to where I grew up, and he was from Hanna, about 25 minutes from where I grew up. So I got that feeling like I could actually do it, and I believed from that moment in time that I was going to play in the National Hockey League. But I grew up watching my dad senior men's hockey. I sat in the penalty box, not the penalty box, but the timekeeper's box. Mm-hmm. And I'd listen to, the guys that had jobs every day, playing senior men's hockey at night, going at it or yelling at each other in the penalty box. And I could think to myself, this is just like the NHL anyway. I'm seeing firsthand the best hockey in the world. But it was just my dad's senior men's guys out there. But I learned a lot from being around my family. My family was a huge part of my life, and that's how I kind of live my life now. That's why I want to be on the bench with both my boys. I got to coach my older guy for a couple of years after I retired, and getting the opportunity to coach Kane and be around him right from the time he started playing hockey has been pretty special for me. So, and family's been a big part of my life. My parents are the biggest reason why I am who I am today.
When was the first moment? Because your path wasn't easy.
Yep.
When was the first moment that you said to yourself as an NHLer, holy smokes, I'm going to stick?
Wow. Yeah, that's... I had a great belief in myself. I did. And I think I had to in order to be in the NHL from the path that I had and coming from a small community. So I had a great belief that I was going to be there. But I guess it would have been, we were playing in San Jose, and Mark Bureau and Saku Koivu both tore their knee ligaments that night in the game. And I was a healthy scratch for the first time in my career that night. And I was like, wow, you can't send me back down now. I'm gonna I gotta have to play. So that was kind of the moment where I went, wow, I think I got it now, because my contract turned into a one-way deal, and the two-way part of it went away after 40 games. So I had played 39, and I'd been a healthy scratch. So I was thinking to myself, maybe they're going to send me down. I didn't know what was going to happen, but they both got hurt on that night, and kind of the rest is history.
But even before that, I can remember watching you play junior hockey. And you played on that Blazers team, and that line with Shane Doan, Jerome McGinley, and yourself is probably one of the greatest lines, not just of that era, but in the history of junior hockey, Darcy.
Yeah.
You guys just played puck on a string with everybody. And everyone said, there's 3 guys that are going to be stars in the NHL, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
What was that? It's one thing to get to a certain level, and then it's another to dominate. Mm-hmm. And that line dominated. What did that feel like? What was that like for you, playing with that Blazers team?
Yeah, it was a scary group of players that we had. Not just that line, but we had a defense that was really good. Nolan Baumgartner, Jason Strudwick, Brad Lukowicz, Jason Holland, all guys that had careers that played in the NHL at one point or another. So we had a pretty good defense, and then playing with Jerome and Shane was, look, two captains, played in the National Hockey League, I think both of them played over 1,200 games in their career. Great leaders, great individuals. The story of how Shane and I got to Kamloops is kind of crazy. A guy by the name of Tim Arnold took he had those big handheld video cameras back then. It's not like the little phones that they have now. Came to our small rink, and Shane and I were playing on the same team for a couple games that year. You could kind of play together in certain events, and the guy Tim took the video of Shane and I and sent it to the Kamloops Blazers, and they put us both on the protected list at the time, and the rest is kind of history. Neither of us even knew what was going on. I went ahead of Shane and played the year before, and then Shane followed me the year after. So ended up being a pretty good duo to have on your team with the Memorial Cups for sure.
Did you know where Kamloops was on a map, like when they called you?
The only reason I knew where Kamloops was on a map was because we went to the Kamloops International Bantam Tournament the year before, and we played in the tournament there. And so, yeah, I knew where it was only because of that. Otherwise, no, I wouldn't have had a clue.
When did hockey start to feel like a job, or did it ever feel like a job? I would imagine at some points it must.
My last year, I was in Colorado, and you have these kind of moments in your career where you kind of know it's almost over. It's time to pack it in. I was driving to the airport a couple of times that year, and my older boy was starting to play hockey, and Joe Sakic had retired the year before, and he was helping coach the team, and I was missing those moments. I was feeling like, do I really want to? I was becoming a fourth line guy. I wasn't playing that much. I was more of kind of a mentor for O'Reilly and Duchesne, as opposed to an actual hockey player anymore. So I kind of felt like that was a time, and it was becoming more of a hassle to get yourself up for a game. I was spending more time at the rink getting treatment than I was actually playing the games. So that's when you kind of feel like, oh man, this is a job, man. This is hard. This is getting really to the point where it's time to pack it in.
As a member of the media, the thing I learned about you not long after you got traded to Toronto, like I really enjoyed the interactions with you. Mm-hmm. They were fiery.
Sure you did.
No. They were fiery. I knew that if I asked you a question, I was getting an honest answer, whether I liked it or not. I realized very quickly that you watched and read almost everything that was said about you. And I wondered, like, when you were in Toronto and you come here and it's a big trade, and I wondered how you handled all that, Darcy, because I couldn't imagine being a Maple Leaf and watching and reading everything that's said about you.
Well, I say this to the young guys now a little bit. The fact that being a Toronto Maple Leaf is all encompassing for me. I think you gotta enjoy every aspect of it, the good, the bad, all of it, and that's what I tried to do. I loved being a Toronto Maple Leaf. I loved playing in the city of Toronto. You get everything here. You get the grocery store questions. You get the newspaper articles. You get the highs. You get the lows. You're recognized everywhere you go in the city, and there's something to be said about that. But I think as a player, you gotta be able to enjoy all of it and not get so wrapped up in not enjoying it. And sometimes I get fiery, and that was my personality. But I'd rather be that way than the guy that was hiding, in the back and not talking about it. And I'd rather be talking about it than, when they stop talking to you, that's when you got a problem.
Well, there's two interactions with Darcy that I remember the most, and he'll remember one. I don't know if he'll remember the other. Mm-hmm. But the one, and I went back actually not long after, and I rewatched it because I didn't phrase it very well, but it was in the playoffs against Ottawa. Mm-hmm. And who hit you into the boards? Alfredson,
yep.
And they scored the winner right later.
Yep.
And the way I reported it after the game, there were people, and Joe Bowen was one guy who really came after me. He said, you made it sound like Tucker deserved to be crushed into the boards like that. But you called me on that one.
Yeah.
You were like, I thought that was BS what you said. I always remembered that one.
Yeah, did I do that?
Yes, you did.
I probably did.
Yeah, but it was fair.
Actually,
it was fair.
I actually don't remember it.
Okay.
But I remember the hit for sure. It's one of those things. Listen, in your career, you're going to have highs and lows, and I had some highs and I had some lows, and that was probably one of the lows. But you know what was great is when you have great teammates, and they went into Ottawa that year and they won Game 6, and then we came home and won Game 7, and that was a high. I didn't get the opportunity to play in either Game 6 or 7, but that was one of the highlights of my career being a Toronto Maple Leaf, was seeing the fans and how happy they were after we won Game 7 against. We couldn't even get around the block to get home because the fans were all in the street.
Yeah.
Like it took me 45 minutes to get around the building. And that joy of the fans that night was epic.
The second one is that I used to get my hair cut at the same place as Darcy's wife.
Okay.
And Taz Hair in Toronto.
Yeah.
So one day I'm in there getting my hair cut, and Shannon was in there getting her hair done,
Yep.
and you're sitting there, and it was after the 2001 Stanley Cup final.
Okay.
And so Colorado beats New Jersey in 7 games to win that cup. And that year you guys had lost to the Devils. And I remember you told me that was one of the toughest ends of season you ever had, because you thought if you guys beat the Devils, you were going to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I do remember that, actually. That team was a pretty good group of players, and we seemed to have this thing we couldn't beat the Devils for whatever reason. And we really believed that year if we'd won that series, we were going to win the Stanley Cup. And for whatever reason, the Devils just had our number. We just couldn't get past them. It was a hard fought series every time we played them. We either went 6 or 7 games in the 2 times we played them. But I think that was the year we went 7 games with them, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Game 7 we lost in Game 7 in Jersey. But and we had the opportunity to win Game 6 at home. We lost 2-1, and we would have won the series, but. Because we won Game 5, I think Caberlet scored with like 30 seconds left to win Game 5 in Jersey to put us up 3-2 in the series, which was kind of crazy. I think we were coming home thinking we'd won it already. I think we did, actually.
Out of all those Maple Leafs teams that you're on, and you mentioned, like, listen, it's tough to get out of the building. There's 45 minutes to get out of the driveway, and everywhere you go, every restaurant, every grocery store, every jog you go, like, you're getting questions, and you're getting, there's a barrage of requests and information about you that's out there. Who do you think out of all of your teammates was treated the worst? Like, that you looked at and you said, you know what they're saying about this guy isn't fair. I know this guy, and he's not being treated right.
Well, I think the fans of Toronto find 1 or 2 guys in the course of time.
Always.
And it's tough, right? Because probably Bryan McCabe would probably come to mind. He played 33 minutes a game, him and Caberlet together, each and every game. Like, I'm sure that they'd love to have a defenseman like Bryan on the team. He was just a minute eater. He could shoot. He could fight. He was a smart individual. And you know what? He's one of our great leaders on our team that we had at that time. So, yeah, you get a little bit of the brunt of some of the fan stuff.
Leafs fans always pick a defenseman, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, historically.
Yeah.
Leave the wingers alone.
Always a defenseman.
Wingers can hide. That's why it's really tough for a defenseman to hide on the ice. Us wingers, we can kind of hide and get away with a lot of stuff that the defense couldn't, for sure. But I don't know, for whatever reason, from the time of the Larry Murphy days to right on through, they've always seemed to find one of those guys on defense to maybe pick on a little bit. But gosh, I really found Bryan to be an outstanding defenseman for this organization for a long period of time.
One of the great moments at the Air Canada Centre, now Scotiabank Arena, was your return. Yeah. And that ovation, I think anyone that saw it will always remember it. Anyone that was there probably can still remember the goosebumps. Yep. What was that like for Darcy Tucker?
That was, listen, I think I cried the whole national anthem. I couldn't pick my head up. The tears were running down my face because my wife and my 2 older children came to Toronto. It was Thanksgiving weekend here in Canada, and they came to have Thanksgiving with my mother-in-law and brother-in-law. So they came to the game that night, and I could kind of see them out of the corner of my eye where they were sitting in the stands, and tears were rolling down my face. I think when you're here as long as I was here as a Toronto Maple Leaf, you kind of I think I left a piece of me here when I left to go to Colorado to begin with, and then to come back. I didn't play my first year back here. I don't think we played in Toronto that year, and then to come back my second year, it was emotional. It wasn't easy, and so it was a hard time. But then they did the funny thing is they did the tribute on the Jumbotron, and then I scored. I think I got an assist the next shift, and I think I scored the shift after that, and ended up being first star of the game. So I heard after that Berkey put a stop to a few of the things that went on the Jumbotron. I think it was like a 2-minute clip of me just running over people and scoring goals, and the place went crazy. And then I got kind of fed off the emotion of that, and we ended up winning the game 4-1. So I don't think there was many of those tributes after that. I think Matt's got one when he came back, and maybe Thomas, but I think there was a period of time there where they didn't actually do them. So I put a stop to that for a while anyway.
Do your kids ever YouTube your highlights or anything like that?
Probably in private they do, and then they go, wow, that's a crazy bugger our dad was. But I mean, yeah, I think they do. I think sometimes from time to time, my older boy plays Tier 2 here in Ontario, and I'm sure he YouTubes it from time to time because I tell him he's got to be a little bit more physical and YouTube my hits. But I think they do from time to time, yeah.
Last one for me, Darcy, is I'm not surprised that you're in this Scotiabank role. And the reason is that, we joke, when you were a player, you always said yes. If the media had to talk to you, to the point where some of your teammates would kid about it. But you always said yes. And, it's one of the things I say, I've seen some people, I know some people who've seen you out at the Scotiabank events, and they talk about how approachable you are. And I said, that is the one thing about Darcy Tucker. Whatever he felt or whatever he felt towards reporters or anything, you always said yes, whether it was media, whether it was fans, whether it was, we were at a charity event, the Family Feud for Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, where you cheated during the game by looking up answers on your smartphone. The fact is you never said no to a request. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think, listen, I've always been someone who didn't mind being in the spotlight. It didn't bother me. It didn't make me feel shy, or I wasn't one of those guys that would back away from any of that. And I've learned a lot of life lessons through hockey. And then my biggest life lessons have been probably taught by Lanny. Lanny's one of the most humble, genuine, approachable individuals that I've ever been around, and he's taught me a lot about how to interact with people. It's sometimes it's not the hockey player. They want to know more about what you are as a person, and those sorts of things about your own kids, your own family. So it's that moment, or that 2 or 3 seconds, or maybe even just a handshake that somebody, you can leave them with a lifetime of memories. I met, or that this is where I was when I met him. I think it's important, and I think it's part of what makes hockey players so special. Is I haven't met very many hockey players that aren't genuine people and just down to earth guys.
For the longest time, and we'll close on this one, Darcy, and we thank you for your time today. Look forward to Scotiabank Hockey Day in Canada. For the longest time in your life, when people asked, who are you, you would say, I'm a hockey player. Mm-hmm. Now that you're in your second life, when people ask who you are, what do you say? I
think I frame it 2 ways. I'm a father, family man, and I'm a Scotiabank teammate, because we do so much across Canada with Scotiabank and meeting people and individuals. We're touching so many different generations of kids that are going to last a lifetime in hockey, and to get that opportunity to do that, I feel very fortunate. I actually do. And to spend time with the people that I get to spend time with, Lanny and Cassie, and Austin Matthews is a teammate of ours now too at Scotiabank, and PK, and we get these opportunities to spend time with generations of kids and show them what hockey's about. I'm pretty proud of that. Your
05s are going into the draft gear next year. More pressure on the kids or more pressure on the coach?
I got no pressure. I don't own skates anymore. I just stand there and blow the whistle, man. I don't have to do the skating anymore, so there's no pressure on me. I think as a dad, you always feel like you're going to try to help your children do the best they can in life. And I don't worry necessarily about them playing hockey. I worry more about them becoming good individuals. I think both of them will be in hockey in some capacity as they get older, whether it's playing or coaching or mentoring young kids or even skills development stuff. So both of them have a passion for it, and hopefully they can do it as long as they can.
This has been a lot of fun. Have a great time.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Darcy.
guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Darcy Tucker.